5 questions you need to think through before forming an LLC. Ponder these basic questions before you create a limited liability company and file any official documents. Keep in mind, this video assumes you have already opted for the LLC as your company's legal structure, as opposed to a sole proprietorship, partnership, C corporation, or S corporation, depending on multiple factors that are pertinent to your specific situation. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. How are you doing today? I hope you are doing fantastic. I'm doing marvelous. Let's just talk quickly about 5 questions you need to think through before forming an LLC. Number 1, in what state should I form my limited liability company? Now, in the United States, we have 50 states, and there are myriad factors that you should think about when deciding where you want to form your LLC. Now, the most obvious choice is usually the state where you are physically located and expecting to conduct your business. Some states, Florida, for example, and Alaska, offer added incentive because they have user-friendly online services that allow you to quickly file and access corporate documents and information on the internet. Other states, Delaware, for example, offer no online filing services and disclose very limited company information on the internet, but they are preferable to those persons seeking to limit public access to confidential company information. As a matter of fact, we know a lot of big companies in the United States are incorporated in Delaware. There is a reason why. So new business owners prefer to form their LLCs in states like Delaware because of its favorable tax treatment and more fine-tuned corporate legal system. As a matter of fact, the judiciary in Delaware has been known to be very, very business friendly in the last 50 years. Now, another thing that's very important here is that corporate case law, as a consequence of all this, as a consequence of political support and political action, Delaware has had corporate case law more well developed, which reduces uncertainty for how your business can be conducted legally. Remember, though, that if you end up conducting business in states other than your state of formation, you will likely be required to file and maintain authorizations to transact business as a foreign LLC in such states. So that's the first question. What state should I form my LLC? The second question here is that how would you name your company? What will I name my company? Now, if you're not under pressure to quickly form your LLC, you can potentially save yourself future litigation and aggravation by carefully choosing the exact name you want for your LLC. The first thing you need to do is you got to go to the state where you want to form your LLC, and there is you want to read the LLC statute in that state to make sure that your preferred limited liability company name satisfies all legal requirements. I'm not here talking about only the fact that the name should be available for use, but you also want to make sure the name is legal. It satisfies the legal requirements. The name should not have anything illegal like drugs or anything adult related, right? You also need to make sure that the name you want is available not only in that particular state where you want to form the LLC, but in all other states in the United States of America, right? The good news is that you can always change the legal name of your LLC if you need to. Every state has, and this is why you need, and I think I should have said it at the beginning here, we're not offering any kind of legal advice here. We have performed research, and we are just simply giving you the results of our research. If you need to form an LLC and you believe that you'll be better off with an expert, hire an attorney, right? Hire someone who has experience forming the kind of LLC you're looking for in the kind of sector you want to operate in, because every state has a different process for changing the name of a company, some more complicated than others. Besides, if you want to conduct business under another name, you can avoid changing the legal name of the company by filing something called a fictitious name, also known as a DBA, doing business as, or assumed name in different states, in the state or localities where you want to conduct business under such name, right? And the thing here is that you can also go to the website of the state department in the states where you want to form the LLC, and there is a search box where you can actually type the preferred name, the name you want to choose, and see if the name is still available or if it is legal at all. Now, again, as I said earlier, if you hire an expert, a legal expert, an attorney, a lawyer, that person, that expert will be able to tell you whether the name is available or not, right? So the thing here is that you don't want to get into this kind of things. Now, remember, there's one last thing that I want to say here. Fictitious names, DBAs, can be very useful if you want to vary your business names by geographic location or assign different names to separate divisions within the company. This allows you to avoid having to formally create new subsidiaries, which can be costly also depending upon the industry you're in or the business model you have. All right, I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. We are still talking about 5 questions you need to think through before forming an LLC. I've given you 2 questions already. In what state should I form my LLC? And what will I name my company? Now, before we move on to the 3rd question here, please, if you like the content that we are sharing with you and you believe that we're adding value to your life or your business, please consider subscribing to our channel now and turn on the notification bell so you are informed in real time whenever we release a new show. We cover a variety of topics, and business law is just one of them. And also share this content, like, and comment below. Do I have an accountant and or tax lawyer? As I said earlier, you want to be surrounded by experts who understands the intricacies of the LLC business you're trying to get into. So either you need to have a lawyer, that's for sure. And if you're lucky, you can have a tax lawyer. In other words, someone who understands not only the subtleties of the LLC business form, but someone who can also help you with taxes, right? One of the attractive characteristics of an LLC is the potential pass-through tax treatment. When it comes to business taxes, the words pass-through entity means that you're not paying taxes at the company level, but the profits and loss are being passed through onto your 1040. So you pay taxes at the personal level on your form 1040 on Schedule K1, right? So this is very important. So having an accountant or tax attorney advise you during and after the LLC formation process would allow you to take the best advantage, right? The best fiscal advantage of this benefit. Among other things, your tax specialist can inform you how to get your company's tax identification number and use that to open a bank account, because you need to have an EIN. An EIN stands for Employer Identification Number. This is the equivalent of a company's social security number. You need that to be able to pay taxes. Even though you're not paying taxes at the company level, you still need to have an EIN just in case you hire people, just in case you want to engage in business with other companies, you want to open a bank account, you need that. Now, your tax advisor can also help you on how to write off certain business expenses for tax purposes and suggest how you should retain receipts and maintain your internal financial records, right? Such a specialist can also guide you on how to make and record public cash distributions to members when applicable. So 3rd question, do I have an accountant or tax lawyer? We strongly advise you to have both. If you're lucky to have the same person performing both duties, that's fine. If not, get both, an accountant and a tax lawyer. Now, an accountant, you can get a CPA, a certified public accountant, or an EA, an enrolled agent. This is someone who has been certified by the Internal Revenue Service when it comes to his or her ability to understand tax laws. So this is someone who has some expertise, that's for sure. Question number 4, do I have investors? Now, if you have other co-founders or investors or other parties, things are a little convoluted. But if you're alone, you can form something called single member LLC. But if you have more than one person, if you have one person besides you, at least one person besides you, then you fall into the category of a multiple member LLC. So if you start a business with your own money, generally this makes things a lot less complicated. Once you invite people over, or once you have people who are contributing some kind of resources, right? This can be either money, or it can also be just property. Once you have that, things become a little complicated, as I said. So what do you do then? Now, multiple investors will likely want to have the LLC repay them on identical timelines, with repayments made proportionally based on their respective membership interest, right? This is called the stakes, the equity stakes. And in the IRS jargon, you call that distributive shares. So what's happening here is that you need to have something called an LLC operating agreement. This is a document wherein you specify things like distribution of profits, distribution of losses, allocation of dividends. You don't use the word dividends when it comes to LLC. You use the distributive shares, but you really talk about also something called buyout agreement. So if an investor or a founder were to decide to leave the LLC, or were to pass away, or something happens, then the LLC will not be dissolved automatically, because if you don't have an operating agreement, state default laws will apply, and state default laws will instruct the court to dissolve the LLC if one person were to disappear, were to vanish, or die, or get sick, or get incapacitated, or were to sell his or her equity in the LLC. So you need to have an operating agreement, right? So once you have that, you're able to protect yourself, especially if you have investors. When things work fine, everything is fine. But when you have a little problem, when you have the threat of liquidation, or there is potential disagreement, think of an operating agreement as the prenup of an LLC. That's the prenup of members of the investors in the LLC. All right, I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of the Awesome Sweetie Kiwi Show. We are having a wonderful conversation today around 5 questions you need to think through before forming an LLC. I've already given you 4 questions. Let's just talk about the number 5. Who will own and manage the company? Now, this is where I sort of touched a little bit on that before. Initial ownership of the company is typically based on what? It could be talent, it could be capital, it could be other assets that people are bringing into the business. That's what I mentioned before, property. So you can pay someone, you can have someone own the company based on their talent. Some people don't have no property or money, but they have the knowledge, they have the know-how. So if they're bringing that and you're able to estimate it, you can really see, okay, this person owns 10%. Now remember though that because membership interest in a company are its most valued assets from a control and profit perspective, you typically want to relinquish as little ownership interest in your company as possible, right? For example, instead of giving away membership interest, you can instead offer alternative compensation agreements, right? The OCAs. For example, this could be commissions, wages, salary, or profit interest to people you need to operate your business. However, you want to note that it is standards for investors to be members because they're putting up the money and have the most financial risk. All right. Now, management of the LLC can take many forms, particularly if there are multiple members who are also investors. Typically, management of an LLC will fall into one of the 3 categories. Actually, there are more than 3. You have like 4 categories. You are the sole member, you have no investor, and you fully manage the company. So you have a single member LLC, SM LLC. First category. Second scenario, the LLC has multiple members, possibly including an investor, but all the members agree that one person manages the company. in which case the other investors, the other members are silent partners. They are silent members. Third scenario, the LLC has multiple members, possibly including an investor. All the members agree that one person manages the company, but that person needs their consent before taking certain actions that are outside the ordinary course of business. For example, selling the company, declaring bankruptcy, borrowing money, and the like. This is why, in this, you can include this in the operating agreement that I mentioned before. In case you have multiple members who decide to entrust the authority and the daily management of the LLC to one member, they can delineate the contours of that authority in the operating agreement. The fourth scenario here is the LLC has multiple members, possibly including an investor, and all the members agree to manage the company together. They agree to co-manage the company, perhaps by forming a board of managers, which is similar to a board of directors of a corporation. So those are the four scenarios that you can have when you own and manage an LLC. Now, one thing for sure, and this is something you want to really pay attention to, is that you and the other members negotiate the final management arrangement. The terms should be, once you do that, the terms should be specifically reflected in the operating agreement so that everyone is clear on their rights. This is very important, folks. You want people to be on the same page, literally, not only figuratively, but also practically, to be on the same page, so that if something happens, if there is some kind of a misunderstanding, you don't have to go to court or resort to, choose litigation to fix problems, to resolve issues. All right, this is it. So here is a recap of the 5 questions you need to think through before forming an LLC. In what state should I form my LLC? What will I name my company? Do I have an accountant or a tax lawyer? Do I have investors? Who will own and manage the company? Thank you so much for listening. I will see you next time. But until then, remember, stay marvelous.